Hey guys, Tom Barclay here. Thought I'd just do a quick video at Heathrow Airport ahead of Ange Postecoglou's Day of Destiny. He obviously has his Europa League quarter-final second leg against Eintracht Frankfurt tomorrow night, having only got a draw from the first leg. And let's be honest, it's quite likely that his whole fate at Spurs is down to this game. If he loses this, given how poorly it's going in the league, I'm not sure he can recover. And to be honest, I would expect him to be sacked at that point. But let's see. Just a few thoughts on Wolves at the weekend. I was off, it was my son's birthday, so just a few thoughts, but it seemed to sort of sum up in a game this season for Ange Postecoglou. Just this error-strewn match. The errors being punished. Vicario, errors for the first goal. Romero, what was he doing for the third one? Bad luck for Spence, second. But look, just a really poor amount of mistakes that Spurs were rightly punished for by a Wolves side that are right down there, but obviously nowhere near relegation because of the gap between the three promoted sides who are going straight back down and everybody else. But it shows how unforgiving the Premier League is, how good in the main most teams have quality throughout their teams. Wolves, an example of that with Matisse Cunha, João Gomez, Ait Nouri's a good player that you cannot put in performances like that and make those kind of mistakes and expect to not be punished. There's a real chance now that Spurs will finish 17th in the league, which is unbelievable when you think about it. I think it's only a 2-point gap between Wolves and West Ham are below them on 35 points, and it's just not good enough. It's been a disaster, the league form. 17 league defeats now. Probably expect more. It's just been an absolute disaster. But anyway, I thought I'd just talk briefly about some figures that came out yesterday about agents' fees for the 24-25 season. So Spurs spent 19.7 million on agent fees 18.4 million in the 24-25 season. That is down from 19.7 million in 23-24. Still seems quite a lot, but when you compare it to Chelsea, 60 million they spent for that year, they're number one. City spent 52 million, United about 30, Villa 25, Newcastle 24, Arsenal 22, Liverpool 20, West Ham 19. So they're all above Spurs in the Premier League. Even Leeds, top of the table, I believe still, or at least gunning for the Premier League, spent more at 18.8 million. Spurs just below them. It's depending on the agents' fees. People don't like agents generally. A lot of people don't like agents. They see them as, a lot of people view them as sort of parasites of the game. I mean, I know quite a lot of them. I'm not sure if that's always fair, and it's a bit more complicated than that. Often players, clubs always look out for their own best interests. Sometimes players need to have someone who's sort of advocating for them, and good agents, when they sort of work in good faith, can be essential to the way the game works. But obviously, they don't have the best reputation, probably up there with journalists. Whether spending lots of money on them is the right thing or not, I don't know. I feel like it's a bit of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation from a club's point of view when these kind of figures come out. Spend loads of money like Chelsea did, and clubs say, fans say, why are you spending all your money on agents? You're sort of feeding into this part of the game, which is a not good part of the game, or at least that's how it's viewed. And then you don't spend as much. You're thinking like you're not competing enough. I mean, for Spurs, I suppose it just adds to the narrative over wages, I suppose, of not spending as much as maybe they could do to compete with the best teams. I mean, to be honest, they are pretty close to the likes of Liverpool, to Arsenal. We're talking about sort of give or take a few million. So I'm not sure you can read too much into it on that front. But I suppose Spurs, the position they're in now going forward, are having to play catch up, and they may have to find themselves spending more money on wages and in particular to try and convince players to come in the summer. If they want to try and get back to where they were before, particularly if they don't make Europe. And on that note, I feel like there is quite a serious situation coming forward to Tottenham this summer if they don't make Europe, which to be honest is more likely. The way they're playing, they won't win the Europa League. I mean, they still can, one of 8 teams. They definitely have the quality in their side to do it. And you've got to hope that these performances in the Premier League is because there's nothing riding on the Premier League, and they can turn it on when it comes to Europe, and tomorrow night in particular. I don't know if I doubt that is possible, but maybe it is. We'll see. But if they don't make Europe, if they don't win the competition, they don't make Europe next season, they've suddenly got a pretty bloated squad going into next year, with with obviously far fewer games. You know, it'd just be the domestic competitions, of which obviously this season they went quite far, but last season they didn't at all. And what are they going to do? I mean, obviously Spurs are looking like they need to sign a lot of new players to bolster the squad because after this terrible season in the league anyway. But it's not going to be so easy getting rid of certain players in the squad, which is already, as I say, bloated anyway. And Richarlison, for example, he obviously scored at the weekend, and I think it's been pretty good for Ange when he's fit. He's obviously been injured so often that a lot of fans have sort of written him off and expect him to leave. But how easy it's going to be able to sell someone like that on the wages he's on with the injury record he's got, it's not going to be easy. And assuming he's got a year left, so you think there would be some takers, but his form has gone right down the pan. I don't think his wages are the lowest either. So that might not be easy. Obviously, Reguilon, Forster leaving on free, Werner will go. But there's still going to be a pretty bloated squad on that front. I mean, how will this affect the signing of Matisse Tell? You know, Ange kind of, when he spoke about it the other day, when it was put to him the other day, kind of left the door open a bit more. He wasn't quite as, insistent that they definitely would sign him. But obviously, in the position he's in right now, I don't think he's going to really, he's going to really commit to that. It's not even worth probably talking to a manager who might not be here at the moment about future signings, transfers, contracts, until we know what's happening with his position. But even like Christian Romero, I mean, he's probably the most saleable asset, perhaps. And it does feel like he'd be open to a move, but Spurs aren't going to want him to go cheaply. And then you're talking about the foreign market in particular and how easy it's going to be for them to be able to stump up the money. I mean, Atletico Madrid have been talked about a lot. Whether they've got the money to spend, 50, 60 million on him, I don't know. We'll see. So that is going to be an issue if they don't make Europe the size of this squad, be able to cut it down before they even think about sort of adding to it. We'll see. Just a final thought. I mean, I'm going to be doing the press conference later, so I'll do a video after that reflecting what Ange said and probably going into a bit more detail about what this means for Ange and the team selection. But obviously a massive game for him and a massive game also for the man who he had to sell just before his opening Premier League game last season, Harry Kane. He obviously went for Bayern Munich, as we all know. They're in a right pickle themselves, going into the second leg, which will be played tonight at home, away to Inter Milan, having lost the home leg in the Champions League 2-1, and with a great chance of going out. Kane's not really playing that well at the moment. And I don't know. I mean, it looks like Bayern Munich will win the Bundesliga this season, so he will probably is very expected to finally end that trophy curse of his. But I don't know. It's just a moment to reflect on whether that move was a good move for him personally or not. I said at the time I thought he should have held on, if possible, to leave on a free transfer the following summer. Obviously, that wouldn't really work for Tottenham, and Daniel Levy later on said that was never going to happen. But player power these days, he could have dug his heels in. And I said at the time that Bayern Munich winning the Bundesliga wouldn't have really gone down as being like a major achievement, even if for him, he would have, obviously it would have meant finally winning a trophy. And he has obviously been absolutely ridiculous out there with the goals he scored, but we knew that was going to be the case. He's an absolutely top quality player. Didn't even win anything in his first season, just his luck that he comes up against this invincible Bayer Leverkusen team. But obviously this year it's quite likely they go out of the Champions League and it's going to be just the Bundesliga. Is that really enough? I personally think he should have held out, and the way it's working out, I think I feel more sort of vindicated in that opinion. But that's by the by. And actually, for most Spurs fans, they probably want to gloss over this part of the video because it's just about the modern day team, if they can face it. Look, there's still a chance. There's still a chance. But they're going to have to go a hell of a long way in Frankfurt tomorrow with that atmosphere to turn it around. But let's see. Cheers, guys.